Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name's Matt.
My name is Dylan. Today we're switching things up a little bit. Instead of doing Oscar predictions a few months out, let's do predictions for something that's happening in just a few days, the Golden Globes.
Yeah, we are doing our final Golden Globes predictions here, and we're going to rush through this a little bit instead of our typical very long talking style. Let's blast through some of these categories, and let's start with picture musical comedy. Now, I think we can both agree that both One Battle After Another and Marty Supreme are locked in here. I would say the same for No Other Choice. I think those three are completely safe. Now, the question is, Wicked for Good. Will this perform as well with the Golden Globes? We know that this is a body that has become a little bit more critic heavy. Not critic heavy in a Critics' Choice way, but critic heavy in they kind of started the whole ball rolling for Anatomy of a Fall, Zone of Interest. They have been instrumental in sort of starting those types of movies, the artsy international movies. Are they going to love something like Wicked for Good? I'm not too sure, but I do have it in at the moment. And rounding out my list, I have Jay Kelly and The Testament of Ann Lee, which I feel like Ann Lee specifically feels very New Globesy. But right now, I'm only really confident in the top three. I think below that, it could be real surprises.
I would extend the confidence out to Wicked for Good. I know the fact that this branch has leaned more international skewing the last few years, but that's not to say they haven't still included some very populist flair. Obviously, these movies went on to Best Picture nominations, but Barbie got in. Avatar: The Way of Water got a Best Director nomination, one of the first years with the new voting bodies. So I think that as long as the category remains lacking the strength of depth, these type of movies will survive for the nominations, especially in a lineup of 6. So I would include Wicked for Good in the safe category there. I would actually throw up something like Begonia as a potential nomination here. I think that due to the fact that it can get both of its actors in, due to the splitting of the acting categories, that's 2 actors. You can make a case a few months ago, maybe a screenplay could come along. Now, so not as much. But I think that Begonia, Testament of Ann Lee, Jay Kelly, and maybe even something like Wake Up Dead Man are the movies fighting for those last 2 spots. And I think it would be kind of smart to do exactly what you did there, is hedge your bets, take one more populist type movie between Wake Up Dead Man and Jay Kelly, and take one more abstract or more challenging type film of Begonia or Ann Lee. So we both have Jay Kelly, but I am going with Begonia over The Testament of Ann Lee, just due to the fact that I think this movie will continue to be alienating to some degree, and we've seen so far, obviously Critics' Choice and Astras are not the Golden Globes, but Ann Lee struggled on those shortlists so far, and we really have to see how far Searchlight can push this movie into the season. And the thing with comedy this year is just like, this is really all of our contenders, because like what else could really jump up, like Rental Family or Sorry Baby, but those just don't really feel like current Globes type core.
So let's move to picture drama. Now, in this category, I think we can agree that the films that are safe are Hamnet, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and I would say Frankenstein. I think that top 4 is pretty locked. What do you say?
I mean, once again, I'll add one movie here. I know you are not the biggest proponent for its awards chances, but I think that it was just an accident. Should be all but assured to get into a lineup of 6 over here at the Golden Globes. I feel like, for me at least, that is a pretty solid top 5. I understand if you want to move something out. The bigger question comes to what is going to be the number 6 movie here, or in your case, the additional number 5 movie, because the movie I think makes the most sense, has a huge asterisk next to it, is because no one's seen Avatar: Fire and Ash yet. In fact, everyone will see it on the 1st. So, like, will Globes voters have the opportunity to see it earlier? So far, HCA, Critics' Choice, proves that no one has really seen this movie besides the AARP, which they probably haven't seen it yet. So no, it's the question of, will they see it? Because if they see it, I think that proves in The Way of Water year that they will go out for this movie, that the fact that they gave Cameron the director nomination that year, it got into the lineup there. I think that if they see the movie, it will get in. But the question is, if they don't see the movie, what is the main alternative?
Yeah, I think Avatar: Fire and Ash should be in. But if it's not, if they don't see it in time, then I would put It Was Just an Accident in. But until then, I'm not betting on Accident. But I have Train Dreams in as well. I think Train Dreams is on the up and up right now. It has been performing very well with these extremely early bodies. And it's just released on Netflix. The buzz is still going for it. Yeah, there's some backlash out there. People, some very vocal haters of the movie. But to me, I think the Golden Globes are going to be where we see Train Dreams start to run, start to pick up a little bit of steam. So right now, my top 6 is Hamnet, Sentimental Value, Sinners, Frankenstein, Train Dreams, and finishing it off with Avatar, Fire and Ash.
And I think you make a great case there for Train Dreams. I think this will kind of be, oddly enough, the make or break moment for that movie, because we saw last year the Globes jumped over something like Sing Sing. They went for Nickel Boys. They went for September 5. And this is where we kind of saw the crack start to show for that film. And this year, Train Dreams is working the opposite direction. It hasn't had the buzz. It hasn't had the awards talk all season long. The awards talk is starting right now. So can it break its way in and show, hey, we are a real contender? Or will something like, I don't even know what would be the next option. Would it be Secret Agent? Would it be a House of Dynamite? Would the Globes do Nuremberg? Probably not.
No, they wouldn't. But yeah, I think the final 3 spots there, whether Accident is your number 5, or, like me, number 7. I think it's safe to say 5, 6, 7 is It Was Just an Accident, Train Dreams, Avatar. It's up to you what order that is. And in the directing category, I think it's pretty safe to say that One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Sentimental Value, and Sinners all feel like pretty sure things. But after that, what would you say, Dylan?
I would also throw Accident here as well. I know we will continue to be on opposing sides of this conversation probably well into this year's award season. So for me, that is the top 5. And then since it's the Globes, there's an open 6 slot. And here's where you get to have some fun conversations. Last year, we saw the Globes really reach out for this 6 slot in director. Maybe we could see the same thing this year. However, I am reverting back to what we would typically expect a award show to do with their 6 slot director, and I currently have Guillermo del Toro for Frankenstein in at the 6 slot with Josh Safdie from Mario Supreme on the outside looking in.
I also have Guillermo del Toro in, and honestly, I think that there is a chance that Jafar Panahi for It Was Just an Accident is that Payal Kapadia no drama nomination, but getting into Best Director. I think that there is a chance of that, but I'm not going to go for that. I round out my list with No Other Choice, Park Chan-wook. So that's my top 6. I have a good mix of, actually, no, I've got 5 drama. No, I've got 4 drama and 2 comedy in there. But yeah, if I were to take out No Other Choice, I think it would just be One Battle After Another from comedy, which is interesting. I don't know how I feel about that. But yeah, this is where I think that they could get a little bit weird. They could do something interesting, a little bit different here.
So moving us over to Best Film Actress Drama, and this is a category where surprisingly 2 years in a row we are struggling with the competition. You would think typically drama actress is where you would find a lot of your strong contenders, but the Globes are proving now that, hey, the shift is more coming over to the comedy musical side. I would say there's 2 locks here: Jessie Buckley for Hamnet, Renata Reinsve for Sentimental Value, and everyone else. I can understand why you have them in, and I can understand why you would have them out. But I currently would include Jennifer Lawrence and Julia Roberts as more than likely in, due to the fact of a weaker competition field.
Well, I would say Jennifer Lawrence is in, because that movie, despite being hated by audiences, is still liked by critics. And there is some highbrow love to that. I would include Jennifer Lawrence as part of the locked trio here alongside Jessie Buckley and Renata Reinsve. I don't think Julia Roberts is in. I think After the Hunt has been so hated, so maligned, that it would be wild for me to see that get any nominations whatsoever. So I do not have her for that. What I do have, though, is Jodie Foster for A Private Life, being, a famous Hollywood actor speaking French in a French movie. That, again, I've been saying all year long, that could be something. And Sony Pictures Classics could do a thing with that. Well, Sony Pictures Classics hasn't been pushing this movie much outside of the film festival circuit, but I feel like if anywhere goes for Jodie Foster in a private life, it is the Golden Globes. I also have Laura Dern from Is This Thing On, which I haven't seen Is This Thing On. Is it weird for it to be in drama? It's a movie about comedians.
I would say if sentimental value can be drama, this can be too. There's comedic aspects to it, but at its core, it is a film about impending divorce and how you cope with those inner feelings. It's just one of the people decides to become a stand-up comic. So it has comedic elements, but my bigger question with the weirdness aspect is Laura Dern does not feel like a lead inside that movie to me. She definitely feels like a supporting player, but I understand why you would put her in a lead, especially at Globes, especially in this weaker of a lineup that I would agree she is probably inside our six. I do have a question though. Is Jodie Foster confirmed for drama? I thought I had heard somewhere that she was comedy, but I think it's somewhere where like no one knows the exact confirmation.
I have no idea, but from what I've heard about the movie, it doesn't sound very funny or comedic.
Okay. Because I know it's labeled as like a dark comedy on IMDb, but sometimes those can be like very off.
Maybe. I really don't know here. That's a big question mark for me, which would make this category even harder to predict. But at this point, all I know is I'm straying as far away from the flops as I possibly can. I'm keeping Julia Roberts out. I'm keeping Sydney Sweeney for Christie out. And I'm keeping Tessa Thompson for Hedda way out of here. All three of whom are in the top 6 on Awards Expert. But yeah, I don't want to have a single one of them in because why would the new Globes do that? Old Globes, yeah, they would do it. New Globes, why?
I would say like Thompson and Roberts, one of them would feel like it makes sense. It's just we haven't really seen where is Amazon MGM's focus line. Are they pushing Hedda more? Are they pushing After the Hunt more? Obviously, Hedda's done well with like the HCA and the CCA shortlist, but that is a very craft heavy movie, while After the Hunt is very much just like an actor type play, if it's an anything type play. And this is probably the end of the road for that movie, if it even was a real play. But I do agree, if Foster is in the drama category, I would throw her in here and I would boot out Julia Roberts, but due to the fact that I guess I'll keep them both in right now. I'll keep them both in, and I won't go for the long called shot of like Julia Gardner in Weapons or something, because like she feels like she would be like a weird plug. I had her in originally, but like I don't know. I think Foster makes a great case if she is in the drama category. I originally had her in comedy, but looking over here at Gold Derby, they have her in drama, and Gold Derby typically knows real confirmations and stuff. So I'll ride with that for now.
I so badly want to put Julia Gardner in Weapons in, but I can't. So I'm going for the long called shot of Leonie Benesch for Late Shift as a pick of mine here. But let's move on to the next category here, actress in a musical or comedy. Now, I think that we can both agree that Rose Byrne, Amanda Seyfried, Chase Infinity, Cynthia Erivo, and Emma Stone all feel pretty comfortable, right?
I would agree with that, and I think there's been a huge shift inside this category over the last 2 weeks, because I think we were both on the train of like this is probably a Erivo versus Seyfried, and now I feel pretty comfortably that this could be Chase Infinity's category.
No, I have never been on Seyfried versus Erivo. I have always been a Rose Byrne believer at the Golden Globes. Feels so Golden Globes core to do. So yeah, Rose Byrne all the way. That's my win prediction here. But I could see Chase Infinity. I could see Amanda Seyfried win. But yeah, I think I'm really solid with that top 5. So what's number 6? And right now I'm leaning Eva Victor in Sorry Baby, but I don't know. I just feel like it's not going to be Kate Hudson, which is a lot of people's number 6.
Yeah, and it's a real question here, because this is where I had Jodie Foster for A Private Life, and it just fit perfectly. I was like, cool, top 5 I'm confident in, and a number 6 that makes sense for the Globes. Kate Hudson does not make sense for the current new Globes. They have shown that they will go out for big name actresses in comedy movies like Jennifer Lawrence and No Hard Feelings, or whatever it was called a few years ago. However, like Jennifer Lawrence was more of like I don't know, an industry type favorite. I know there's this whole conversation of Kate Hudson is industry royalty, but we really haven't seen that recently. While, like, yeah, she had the whole thing 20 years ago, but like even when Glass Onion came out, it wasn't really the talk of like, oh my gosh, Kate Hudson, she's back. It was more like this ensemble, it's cool. And like Eva Victor, like I would say, like I could see it, but like going back to the Coda year, I don't think Amelia Jones got in for Coda. And like Coda got picture, it got supporting actor.
And let's move to the actor drama category, where I think that you and I can both agree Michael B. Jordan, Wagner Moura, Joel Edgerton. I think we can agree on those, maybe.
I had the top two. Edgerton is a part of a weird bunch of actors I don't really know what to do with, because I do agree if Train Dreams is in picture, Edgerton definitely comes along. But if Train Dreams misses out, I could see it being something similar like where Clarence Macklin missed out on supporting actor last year at the Golden Globes. So like just looking at these other contenders, though, they all have massive asterisks against them. Dwayne Johnson, The Smash Machine, no one's talking about that movie. Jeremy Allen White, Springsteen, maybe even less people are talking about that movie. Will Arnett for Is This Thing On? Movie hasn't come out yet, so no one's talking about that movie. And like Oscar Isaac and Frankenstein would be the next person in line, but when people talk about Frankenstein, they're not talking about Oscar Isaac. So I would have Edgerton probably in my 3 or 4 slot right now. I just wouldn't consider him a lock, but I think he is the most likely of that bunch of actors I did just mention.
I currently actually have Joel Edgerton winning the category.
Ooh.
I feel like that could happen. But that would also, this category just feels weird. No one really feels like a winner to me. But I would round out my top 6 starting with Joel Edgerton, Michael B. Jordan, Wagner Moura. Then I would go Dwayne Johnson, Oscar Isaac, and Will Arnett to round out my group. Okay, Best Actor Musical Comedy. I feel really good about the entire top 6. How do you feel about this? Leonardo DiCaprio, Timothée Chalamet, George Clooney, Ethan Hawke, Lee Byung-hun, and Jesse Plemons. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I would agree. Our orders would obviously be a little bit different, but I do agree those are probably our 6 at the end of the day. And the only reason I think they would really astray from that is if they either just shun Jay Kelly or Begonia and it misses out in all of its other categories, and they pull someone like Wake Up Dead Man. It's just the issue there is, by all accord, they're pushing Craig in lead, and Craig is not the lead of that movie. And even if they were to push Josh O'Connor, I don't feel like he really has the juice for a nomination here. So I do feel great about this top 6, just because, again, like we keep saying in a lot of these categories, who is the next in line? And the next in line just feels so distant off.
Feels like Brendan Fraser might be the next in line, which just feels fake.
Yeah, like Fraser, Jackman, Craig all feel like they have a massive wall in their way, not just because their movies are non-starters, but because they aren't the most showy actor in their movies.
Genuinely, I feel like our top 5 for the Oscars could be entirely in the musical comedy category. So let's move to the supporting actress category, where I feel like we can agree Teyana Taylor, Inga Ibsdottir Lilius, Ariana Grande, Elle Fanning. Could probably agree.
Yeah, I think I have all those up there as my top 4, and I think those are kind of the set and forget 4 across all of these televised award shows until we see someone stray away. But I just think it's going to be those 4 everywhere, and then in places of 5, who gets in between the places of 6? Because you have someone like Amy Madigan, you have either of the Marty Supreme women, or even
probably Odessa.
Or even Regina Hall or Emily Blunt as like further options out there for places of 6. But the real question is just going to be is when we get these places of 6, I would assume they're going to go with different people at each spot. It's not going to be the same 6 everywhere. And it just becomes which of those 5, 6 options is going to end up being the number 5.
Yeah, I mean, Amy Madigan, I think, will be in win contention by the end of the year. Whether she will be at the Golden Globes, I'm not entirely sure, but I think that she's pretty safely in there. I have her at number 4 right now, and I'd go with Odessa A'zion. So right now, that's my top 6, and I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I want to put Odessa in here. But it's just like this performance doesn't feel very Globesy, and I feel like this is something that will start to happen as we see potentially critics groups start to rein in. But I would say the same thing about someone like Margaret Qualley in The Substance last year, and she still did get that Globes nomination despite the fact that the critics' support hadn't really started to come in droves yet.
So let's go to supporting actor, where I think we can agree. The safe picks are Skarsgård, Penn, Mescal, and maybe even Benicio del Toro.
Yeah, I would definitely throw him up, especially in a lineup of 6. I think that he would be in that safe category. And then here, I think there's so many different directions of where you could go, but most logically, I feel like most people should have at least one, if not two, of the Netflix boys between Adam Sandler, Jacob Elordi, and William H. Macy. I currently have Elordi in as my 5th, but again, he also feels like something that maybe the Globes wouldn't go for without the previous recognition of saying like, hey, this is kind of cool to do. But going back to Qualley last year, they did Qualley. So I feel like Elordi kind of fits in that same realm where like it's the cool thing and they end up doing the cool thing.
Following in that Qualley train, I think that they'll do Jacob Elordi and Miles Caton, both of whom feel like the Margaret Qualley equivalent of this year. The cool nomination for a young person, kind of going out on a limb, and especially being in a film that they very much love. So Sinners and Frankenstein, I think both have that boost. I do feel like William H. Macy will be in our Oscar 5 at the end of the day, but I think that we're going to have to wait for regional critics to push him for him to get into the conversation at some of the televised awards, which will launch him to potentially a nomination. But right now, I feel pretty good with that top 6. I'm just confused why 77% of people still have Adam Sandler in for supporting actor. That's crazy.
Hey, on Gold Derby, it's even worse. It's 84% of people still have Adam Sandler in. But, I mean, in a lineup of 6, you could make an argument for him to be the 6th slot. It's just like, if he's getting in here, that means he's probably going to get in at Critics' Choice. He's probably going to get in at SAG. And then he probably makes the BAFTA long list at that point. So then you're kind of saying Sandler is in, which I know both you and I would say Sandler's not in. So like part of me wants to go crazy and put in Billy Crudup for Jake Haley and go in the opposite direction, but I'm not going to do that. I think despite my brain telling me otherwise, I think I am going to stick with Delroy Lindo here for Sinners, just because I think this is a spot where I feel like they could go from a lineup of 6 being an actor that the Globes have shown love to in the past, even when other award shows have not. Do I feel great about it? Not really. It's just I just struggle to see them go with every youth type performance this year, and I feel like Caden's the one that you can easily drop off between, I would say, the 3 bigger ones in contention.
So let's move to screenplay. And I think we're both going to agree that Sentimental Value, Sinners, One Battle After Another, and Hamnet are all locked in here. So the question is, what are 5 and 6? I know you're going to say It Was Just an Accident is one of those, but I would disagree once more.
Yeah, I have The Accident in as my number 4 or my number 5 at the moment. And I think the real question for me is going to be, what is the number 6? Is it going to correlate over with the Best Director category and the winner between Park Chan-wook, Guillermo del Toro, and Josh Safdie also carries over in the screenplay category, or do they split those up and they give one of them the director and they give one of them the screenplay? And I think I'm going to hedge my bet instead of going all the way in on Guillermo here. I think that I will put Guillermo as my 6 in director, and I will put Josh Safdie as my 6 for screenplay.
So I am going with both Marty Supreme and No Other Choice in Best Screenplay. So that's my top 6, rounding out that group. But again, I really think that there's a chance that even if I'm right and It Was Just an Accident misses Best Drama, it could still make it into either director or screenplay. There's a very big possibility of that happening, but I'm just not going to bet on it because I'd rather, like, it would suck for me to predict the snub in Best Drama and then say, oh, but it'll get director, and then actually it gets screenplay. Or I predict screenplay and then actually it gets director, and then egg on my face. Like, I'm just going to predict it missing all over the place, but say I think there's a possibility of it making one of those categories, but not all of them. So let's move to non-English language picture, where safely, I think I can say Sentimental Value, No Other Choice, It Was Just an Accident. Finally, we agree it's safe somewhere. And The Secret Agent, and maybe I would even say The Voice of Hind Rajab is safe. So I think top 5, I feel, is pretty good.
What I would love to see here in the non-English language category here at the Golden Globes is for them to just say fuck it and do all the neon movies. Though all five of them, put Surratt up there as well and just say, hey, we're not going to be the ones to say which neon movie isn't real yet. Y'all have to do that down the line. And then also I would say throw in Henry Rajah. But I mean, the Globes typically do some more bold type things in this category. It's like we could see them go for something like Sound of Falling or Left-Handed Girl or President's Cake or Late Shift, as you mentioned before, to pair with that potential acting nomination. So like I don't think it's as easy as just throwing in all five neon movies and then just saying give me the best of the rest, but I think that would be the funny option for the result of the Globes this year.
Yeah, I'm going to round out my top six with Left-Handed Girl. I think they will go with one of the Netflix movies, and between this and Nouvelle Vague, Left-Handed Girl makes a lot more sense. But that said, I did give Leonie Benesch a nomination in Best Drama Actress earlier for Late Shift. So Late Shift could be a big surprise thing here as well. That would feel very in line with what the Globes sometimes do in the Best Non-English Picture category. But yeah, right now I'm just going to stick with the four neons. Sorry, Surratt, you're not coming along. Plus Hind Rajab and Left-Handed Girl.
I think I will follow you with the top five there, but I think I will stray away from Left-Handed Girl and I will go with The President's Cake as that sixth slot.
So let's move to Best Animated Picture, a category where what the fuck do you do when there's only when there's six of them? There's five in this category. There's only five.
I mean, you can make a case there's only four in this category, and then it's really like, what's the fifth? And then now, even especially, what even is the sixth? Because now we know Ne Zha 2 is even eligible for the Oscar, and as we see a lot of these other award shows do, when you're not eligible in international feature, or sometimes even documentary feature, they don't even entertain the thought there. So not that I was predicting Ne Zha, but it is currently in the top five or top six across a lot of these prediction apps of Gold Derby and awards experts. So like, even more so, what are you plucking for number six, assuming Elio is that number five?
Yeah, assuming Elio is that number five is a big, big thing here. So right now, I think we can agree on K-pop Demon Hunters, Zootopia 2, Little Amelie, or The Character of Rain, Arco, probably Elio number five, and Dyl, you're going to be happy to hear this. Bad Guys 2.
Ooh,
come on.
Yeah. I would like for that to happen. Bad Guys 2 was a little bit of a letdown for me, so I would much prefer Dogman. But something that I've learned from some people who I know who are voting members among various different regional as well as Critics' Choice groups is that they're really campaigning Demon Slayer. And I don't know if that's something that branches would actually go out for due to the fact that you have to watch so much prior content to really understand what's going on. But in such a weak and desolate category this year, if they're campaigning that thing super hard, maybe it makes sense for a six slot.
Dude, I'd be pissed. I fucking hated that movie. I fucking hated it. It's awful.
I mean, it makes sense. It's one of those films, and I think it's the whole MCUification of like blockbuster cinema nowadays, where I don't want to be the one to be like, oh my gosh, Marvel bad. But like when Marvel introduced all the TV shows, you had to watch so much just to understand what was going on, and we saw Marvel kind of fall in the depths of negative reviews and audience receptions. And now that anime is really popping off, it seems like the biggest things to pop off are the stuff that has hundreds of hours of TV content that you kind of need to know to really get involved. And clearly the audience that's going out really enjoys it for the most part, but then there'll be people like you who probably hasn't seen a lot of the backlog stuff and still like, what am I watching?
Yeah, I watched the whole first season, wasted my time on that. And then I watched Mugen Train, which I actually really like. I think Mugen Train is good. But that was 5 years ago. There's been 5 years of TV between then and Infinity Castle. And watching Infinity Castle, I'm like, okay, this is only for its core audience. Mm-hmm. Like, I know these characters from what I saw before. What the fuck is happening? And why do I care?
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my gripe with Demon Slayer. I am going to refuse to put it in because I cannot picture enough of the Golden Globes members having like enough of a working knowledge of the Demon Slayer anime. I would even say Chainsaw Man might be ahead of it because apparently that one works as a standalone piece. despite being part of the anime, it does a little bit more to work.
So, stupidly enough, for my sixth slot, I'm not doing Dogman. I'm not doing Bad Guys 2. I'm going with In Your Dreams from Netflix. This movie recently either started screening or released on Netflix. I'm not sure the difference there, but it's getting good enough reactions. And I think this year, good enough from a top tier distributor could be good enough for the sixth slot.
Yeah, I definitely am with you on that. It could be good enough. It could just be good enough. Or they could do something completely out of left field, like we have seen in the past with the Golden Globes. They have sometimes reached to weird animations. I remember like My Sunny Maud was one that they really reached down to. I could see them go here with something like I Am Frank Elda, or something like Boys Go to Jupiter. They could really go down for some of those interesting smaller movies. Like Chow could be a good one. Endless Cookie is dope and would be a really cool nomination. So my prediction is they're going to go Bad Guys 2. My hope is they go with something completely out of left field that no one would ever expect.
Yeah, like Gabby's Dollhouse.
Gabby's Dollhouse. Gabby's Dollhouse sweep. It's going to make $1 billion. No, I would love to see them go with Endless Cookie, but why would I ever predict that? I am going to force my Academy Awards animation branch friend to watch Endless Cookie, but he's gonna fucking hate it. So,
well, speaking of $1 billion, why don't we do the People's Champ category of the Golden Globes, the cinematic and box office achievement? And here, I think we have two things that we've never seen from this category before get tested this year. The first being, they said, hey, if you have outstanding streaming numbers, we will consider you for this category. K-pop clearly has outstanding Netflix streaming numbers, so will they actually consider it? Or because it doesn't have the box office revenue that this category requires of its nominees, they'll be like, no, actually, we won't. I'm on this train of, since they said that's a rule, this is the first example of that rule being put in place. I will predict it, and then if they say screw it, then I will know in the future all the Netflix, all the Amazon, all the Apple stuff, don't even consider going forward.
Mm-hmm. But it's interesting because K-pop also did really well in theaters in its few releases that they did.
It did. So it didn't hit the numerical threshold that they give this category. I think it's $100 million domestic, which I think between its various releases, it hit about 30. But I mean, 30 from like limited amount of theaters on like 2 different weekends is still pretty great.
But yeah, I think we can agree Sinners and Wicked for Good are both locked in. Avatar has not been in the box office yet, but I think we can say that they know it's going to be a big box office success. So Avatar's in here. Then I have K-pop Demon Hunters. And after that, where do you go for that last four? Currently, I'm going with Minecraft, Chicken Jackie, Superman, Weapons, and F1.
Fire and Ash is the other example of something that we haven't seen put to the test show here at the Golden Globes. They've said that, hey, if you can prove you're making the money, you can still get nominated in this category. But we saw stuff like Wonka, which seemed all but assured to hit the $100 million threshold, miss out for films that were labeled box office flops and very critically panned movies that year. But it's Avatar. It's going to make at least $1 billion, if not $2 billion. So, like, I agree. It's in this category. And I would say, following the footsteps of Barbie, following the footsteps of Wicked last year, this is probably our winner if it gets nominated. But if it doesn't get nominated, that's where we can have real discussions about a potential other winner. But I'm with you for the most part. I have Avatar, I have Sinners, I have Wicked, I have Weapons getting in, Superman, F1. Then I do have Zootopia 2 and K-pop rounding out my lineup. I have Minecraft from the outside looking in, because last year showed they can snub the $1 billion movies when they are panned or not liked by critics. We saw that with like Moana 2, and I think there was another one as well. So I think that Zootopia is getting good enough reactions that I have Zootopia in my lineup, but maybe they will go with Minecraft or Lilo and Stitch over Zootopia 2 instead.
All right, for the original score category, I think you and I can both agree. Sinners, One Battle After Another, Marty Supreme, Hamnet, probably Frankenstein. I mean, the Oscars are allergic to Alexandre Desplat, but the Golden Globes seem to give him a nomination almost every time.
I would agree with you in that top 5. The order, obviously, that's stuff that we'll have to see going down the line. But those 5 feel good. And the other thing I would say about the Globes is typically, at least especially before they started to change up their voting base, they were always pretty based in this category. They would go out for random movies and score just because they liked the composition. Like, they did Motherless Brooklyn that year. They did, I'm blanking on other ones, but they have a history of going out for cool original scores when they were lone nominees. So, like, this year, I would say, even if it's ineligible for the Oscars, like, Testament of Anne Lee could make sense here, even as a lone nomination. F1 could potentially make sense here, but I don't know if I want to lean in either of those directions. Begonia also fits something that this Globe's body would go for, something super showy, something super original. But, like, all three of those movies, I feel like just don't have the zeitgeist in the score conversation at the moment. But I don't know what I would put there instead. So currently, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is The Testament of Anne Lee, but I would love to see them go for Train Dreams. I'd love to see them go for Surratt. I would love to see them go for No Other Choice. But yeah, at the moment, the safest one feels like Anne Lee because I know that they're going to like it in other categories, and it makes sense to go for here.
Yeah, I mean, even as someone who doesn't love The Testament of Anne Lee, the score is very fantastic, and the Globes have shown, regardless of your Oscar eligibility in this category, they will show up for you. We saw Dune Part 2 get in. We've seen other sequels and other films that are deemed ineligible going to get that nomination. So I will throw Anne Lee as my number 6.
And in the Best Original Song category, I think we can agree Golden, I Lied to You, and probably Girl in the Bubble are all relatively safe.
I would agree as well. I think these three all have a case to win the category still at this moment. It's just, where will we see the season progress from here? And the fun thing with the Globes this year is, or I think every year, is the Globes are not restricted to nominate Diane Warren. And with 6 slots in such a stacked category, we can see them do so many cool things because for the first time, I feel like in a long time, Best Original Score is competitive with worthy contenders. And will they double up on Sinners, double up on Wicked, or will they branch out to give various other movies love, like Train Dreams or Avatar or F1 or even The Testament of Anne Lee? That is where the real questions come for spots 4, 5, and 6.
Well, I am going to go for Salt Then Sour Then Sweet from Come See Me in the
Yeah.
Good Life. Because, Dylan, have you listened to the song yet?
I haven't.
Oh, go listen to it. It's really good. It's really good, and it's out on streaming now. So I'm going to keep campaigning this song because I really, really love this track. It's beautifully written. The lyrics are gorgeous. And, you know, it's written by the late, great Andrea Gibson, poet laureate of Colorado at some point. But it's an amazing track. Sarah Bareilles and Brandi Carlile with words by Andrea Gibson. Amazing, amazing, amazing. But after that, I think that the final 2 spots for me are going to be between Lose My Mind from F1. The Testament of Anne Lee, I don't think it's Clothed by the Sun that would get a nomination. But there was another song in there that they had submitted, but I can't find it in Awards Expert, and I don't remember the name of it.
I know
it's not John's Running Song.
Okay, that's the other one. Yeah, that's the other one I know that was submitted, but
there's another one, but I don't see anyone predicting it on here. But it was the better song between that and Clothed by the Sun. So Clothed by the Sun I have currently, but I think it's going to be a different Anne Lee song. And then I think Dream is One from Avatar is also a possible choice here. But they haven't, I don't think they did the last Avatar song. So
they didn't do the last Avatar song, but they did do the Miley Cyrus song last year. So they've shown that they are receptive. And as we've talked about before, Globes tend to go more pop star leaning for their nominations. And I have the Salt Then Sour Then Sweet song in my Oscar lineup, but the Globes don't typically do docs in this category. Since 2020, I think the only documentary to get a nomination would be the Bruce Springsteen song from She Came. That's not even a doc. That's a movie. So they haven't nominated a doc since 2020. So for my lineup, I am going with the top 3, as we've mentioned before. I'm throwing Avatar into my lineup due to the fact that it's going to, at least it seems from the songwriting branches that have done their nominations so far, they've nominated it, so they've at least heard it. And I would assume the Globes have at least heard it as well. It's on streaming right now. And I think I will double up with Sinners and Wicked nominations to round out my 6. With Train Dreams, if it gets into drama, I would then throw it in here as well to help build up that package. But currently I do have Train Dreams on the outside looking in.
You've actually convinced me to throw Miley Cyrus for Dream is One in, especially because if I don't know what song from Anne Lee is going to get nominated, I might as well not predict one. and hedge my bets, because if I predict Ann Lee correctly but get the wrong fucking song, that would suck.
It would.
Suck.
It would. And I think there's also a case for the F1 songs. The question is going to be which F1 song, because, as I said before,
Lose My Mind.
This category,
for sure.
Lose My Mind is the banger. It's the best song of the bunch. But it seems like they're pushing the Ed Sheeran Drive song, the really annoying one from the credits, the most. But like, this category loves their pop stars, especially when this is the only nomination they get in the season. Because like every year we have Miley Cyrus and Robbie Williams. Last year this was the only nomination. The year before that they gave Lenny Kravitz a nomination here, and Dua Lipa. The year before that, Taylor Swift for the Crawdad song. The year before that, they had Jennifer Hudson for the Respect song, and the list goes on and on, where you see a pop star pop up in this category when they pop up nowhere else. So like, I feel like the Ed Sheeran one could be a spoiler here, but due to the strength of the category, I don't know if I'm ready to remove the Arrivo original song from Wicked or Last Time I Seen the Sun from Sinners quite yet.
So that brings us to the end of this Golden Globes prediction video. Let us know in the comments what you are predicting for the Globes, and we'll see in a few days how we did here. The competition's on, Dyl. Is accident going to triumph, or am I going to come out on top? We'll have to see. But thank you all so much for watching. As always, my name's Matt.
My name's Dyl, and this has been Fantasy Filmball.